Hello, happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome in to today's Daily Sports Take. I'm Jordan Spurgeon. In case you're new to the channel, I'd love it if you subscribe to this channel and leave a like on any video that you watch. So the NFL draft happened over this past weekend, and it was really a spectacular draft. I've already broken down days 1 and day number 2 as well. So today we're going to talk about day number 3 and really just the draft experience as a whole. So over the course of the next week, I'll be breaking down individual teams and divisions and players and all of that good stuff. But as a whole, this draft was really something special to watch. In a time where there's no other sports going on, all we have to look forward to is the Last Dance documentary, which I'm excited to watch parts 3 and 4 tonight, by the way. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, be sure to check those out as well. But outside of that, the NFL draft is really all we've had to look forward to, especially us diehard football fans. So it was a lot of fun. I think seeing the general managers' houses and the coaches and Bill Belichick's dogs and Cliff Kingsbury's expensive $300,000 house in Arizona that would be more expensive in other places, and all these things were just super fun to watch. And if you ask any of the general managers or the scouts or the coaches, anybody of that nature, they would all say they loved that they were able to spend time with their family. They helped their kids with homework. They went for a swim with the dogs and the kids. They were able to have conversations with their wives in between picks and all of that good stuff. So I think we're going to see a little bit of a blending of the draft in future seasons. Roger Goodell touched on it after the draft, just saying, listen, there were some things here that we really, really liked that got more player involvement in the draft, more scouts involved, more GMs involved. And so I'm not saying they're going to hold a virtual draft, but there's going to be elements of this draft that we will be seeing over the next 10 to 15 years that will really help change the draft and make it even better than it already is. But day number 3 of the NFL draft, there was a few storylines and players to fall. The first 2 storylines were 2 quarterbacks who a lot of people thought would be drafted on day 2, myself included. So starting with Jacob Easton, the quarterback out of Washington, he slides all the way down to pick 122 to the Indianapolis Colts. So he will be the heir apparent to Phillip Rivers there for the Indianapolis Colts. Now Easton was at Georgia, had to transfer to Washington when he lost his job to Jake Fromm, who was a freshman, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But Jacob Easton has all the intangibles to be a smart and at least a game manager type quarterback in the NFL. So I think for a year, learning from Frank Reich and Phillip Rivers will make a lot of sense for him. And then next year, they have Jacoby Brissett, who's on a 1-year deal this year, and Phillip Rivers on 1-year deals. So next year, I do believe they'll get an extension for Jacoby Brissett. We'll see what happens with Phillip Rivers. If he has a great season, he might want to come back for one more, and I think the Colts would be dumb to turn that down. But Jacob Easton would then be in a quarterback battle with Jacoby Brissett and maybe be in line to be the franchise quarterback for the Colts. So I think taking a 4th-round pick on Jacob Easton was a steal for the Colts. And then the next storyline quarterback that I talked about, I mentioned briefly, Jake Fromm from Georgia. Jake Fromm did it all in college. He won 35 games in his 3 years as a starter. That's the most in that 3-year span in all of college football. In the SEC especially, that's tough to do. So we know that Jake Fromm is a winner. We know that he's a leader. We know that he has had to fight in tough quarterback competitions all of his life. So I do think that Fromm is set up to be well positioned to the NFL. He slides all the way down to the 5th round to the Buffalo Bills. So we'll see what the Bills are able to do with him. They have Josh Allen, who's their young franchise quarterback, but he does play a brand of football very similar to Ben Roethlisberger, where he is going to put his body on the line. He's a big-bodied quarterback who's going to use his legs, hold the ball a little bit longer to get the ball downfield. So we'll see just how durable Josh Allen is, but Jake Fromm will be his backup. Not sure how many opportunities he'll get, but if he does great in preseason games and he's looking great in training camp the next 2 or 3 years, expect him to be a trade candidate. And if he gets a couple spot starts here and there, look at what happened with Jimmy Garoppolo in New England. He got a couple starts, and people had already heard good things in preseason and in training camp and stuff, and the 49ers were lining up to get him, and now he is a quarterback that took his team to a Super Bowl and will likely become a Super Bowl champion sometime soon. So look to Jake Fromm to be something similar to Jimmy Garoppolo. I think that's a fair analysis of Jake Fromm. So it's going to take a few years, but he has a chance to be really good. And then my final storyline is the Green Bay Packers and really their confusing draft. So they started off in the 1st round by drafting Jordan Love. Not only just drafting him in the 1st round, but trading up 4 picks to get Jordan Love. So he's going to be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers has 4 years left on his contract. He's 36 years old. Jordan Love will have a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option. So maybe that 5th-year option, he would become the starter at that point. But not exactly sure what the Packers were thinking there. And then they draft a running back in the 2nd round, even though their running back, Aaron Jones, led the NFL in rushing touchdowns last season. So very confusing for the Green Bay Packers. And then the knife in the coffin and how it relates to day number 3. There were over 30 receivers taken in this draft class. Many believe this is the deepest draft class we've seen in the history of the NFL. Receivers being taken in the 5th and 6th round, would have had second or third round grades in most other seasons. But the Green Bay Packers didn't select a single wide receiver. Even the Dallas Cowboys, who were set at wide receiver, took CeeDee Lamb when he fell to their lap at 17. There were plenty of receivers. Think of a guy like Tyler Johnson, who the Bucs drafted in the 5th round, that the Green Bay Packers could have selected to help shore up and beef up their receiver core. Davante Adams is a top 5 wide receiver in this league. So the Packers do have that at least. But he's injured and he can't do it all by himself. And Rodgers is older. He needs more weapons. Why do you think Brady left New England? Maybe he was sick of Belichick, but he didn't have the weapons. Now, if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm kicking the air right now. I am upset with the management here. I know they have a plan. They've drafted nothing but defense the last few years. And when he finally has a great defense, they haven't helped out the offense too much. It's literally just him and Aaron Jones and a couple of good offensive linemen and then Davante Adams. So very interesting there for the Green Bay Packers, but there's some thoughts on day number 3. Let me know what you thought of the draft as a whole, or day number 3. If your team or your alumni had any players drafted that were, smaller schools, all of that good stuff, be sure to comment that down below. And then, as always, I'd love it if you leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. So with that, everybody, I hope you have a splendid Sunday. Stay safe, stay inside. Have a wonderful day.